So glad you could join us, and thank you to Channel 3 for hosting us,
Yes,
as
thanks to
they
the
always
city.
seem to.
Yeah, they're very nice about that. Randy Johnson of the city, I always contact him, but the city is so gracious to let us broadcast these games.
Well, Blazer fans just had a chance to watch Centralia beat South Puget Sound in the women's action, and now we're right back here for the primetime event, the men's action, as the Blazers and the Clippers try and square off. Both teams struggling right now, both toward the bottom of the West Division. But, unlike the Clippers, who also, like the women's team, are a little shy on the number of players, the Blazers, they've got some light at the end of the tunnel. They're a young team. They're coming out of, some games that were hard-fought games, and you hope that those experiences with a young team would help them end up, having a little success in the second half of the year. They are in the bottom tier of the West. They're 4-14 overall, 2-5. But they are in range for that second half, and hopefully all you're trying to do is reach to the top 4 teams in your division. Try and squeeze your way into a playoff spot, and then, once the playoffs hits, then anything can happen.
You're right about that. Well, I think Jerry Owens is going to be doing the lineup. Do you want to do the lineup, or should we join him? It's all up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We can go ahead and let you know who are the starters for both squads. Starting out with we'll start with the South Puget Sound Clippers, and they're coached by Curtis Norwood. Scotty Ewing, a 5'8" guard out of LaGrange, Louisiana. Jamie Smith, he's out of Olympia, a local guy, and he's 6'1". Marcus Braxton, the 6'2" forward out of Spanaway Lake, is the third Clipper. And then you get the big guy, Anya Turner, 6'7" out of Black Hills. So a lot of local Puget Sound folks will know the name Anya Turner. That guy's getting 12 boards a game right now.
That's
so
incredible.
If you miss it, he will get it at 12 boards a game. And Lucky Lagerberg, you can't argue the name right there. Lucky Lagerberg, 6'7", also out of Olympia. The one thing about South Puget Sound, they've got a lot of local players on their team.
They do.
And so you almost expect to get as many players here in this gymnasium for South Puget Sound as you will for Centralia, because they have so much local infused talent. Centralia College, the starters for Centralia: Van Lockett, the 5'10" freshman out of LaGrange, Louisiana. Wes Arns, 6'1" freshman out of Anchorage, Alaska. Gunnar Farstad out of Ketchikan, Alaska. He's a sophomore, the only sophomore on the team. Chris Voss, who's leading the way scoring for the Centralia Blazers, also out of Anchorage, a teammate of Wes Arns in high school, 6'5". And Jordan Dam, he's a freshman out of Wilson, one of the local, and I say local as in from Washington, one of the guys for Centralia at 6'3". So Centralia, again, Lockett, Arns, Farstad, Voss, and Dam.
And we mentioned this during the women's game. We have a pipeline to Alaska for players.
We absolutely do. This team, Centralia, officially has 13 players on their team. 6 of them are from Alaska. 2 are from Texas, 1's from Louisiana. So 9 of the 13 are from out of state. So it'll start out definitely Clipper ball to start things off. And right up top, it'll be Ewing with the basketball. He'll go on to the right wing. And South Puget Sound just pushing it around the perimeter to start things off. That's Smith with the basketball. He rolls off of a screen. He'll spot for about an 18-footer, no good, and rebounded by Centralia. Centralia wearing the bright yellow uniforms, the school bus yellow uniforms. I really like them.
Have you ever seen yellow before? Been full yellow?
Not that kind of yellow.
No.
Three-pointer missed by Centralia.
I was going to say for the 20 years that we've done the games, it's the first time I've seen them in all yellow. So I was trying to think back. Did they ever wear all yellow before? I don't think so.
Blue, white. That's what you usually see. Mingled with a little yellow. Inbounded to Centralia. Farstad at the top. He'll give it over to the right to Dam. Back up to the top. That's Lockett. He'll swing it over to the right on the wing. And Dam will come up to the top. Now baseline. That's Lockett. He'll go up for it. Reverse lay-in, and that's good. 2-0, Centralia with the early lead.
6'7" players out on the court right now.
We've definitely seen taller through the years, but to have two at 6'7" is quite the blessing. Here's Lockett, rolls off toward the left. He'll go in toward the baseline, pump fake, puts it off the glass and in. 6'4", Centralia with the lead.
That's one thing about when you have those tall players, you get those smarter, shorter, fast guys and can drive by them.
16:56 in the half. Here's Smith with the ball. He'll roll off of a screen. He'll pull back, take a three-point shot from the arc, top of the arc, and it's a two. He had a foot on the line. 2-point shot, evens it up at 16:42 to go in the first half as the Yellows move back over into their half.
Got to be more where your foot is on those three-point shots.
Now, I want to know where you can buy one of those at the student bookstore, one of those jerseys. And that we're going to call that a pass. That was a beautiful pass. That was not a missed shot, but credit two for Voss. And here's South Puget Sound trying to counter. Turner with the basketball. Misses this shot. Looks like Arns with the rebound and Centralia in transition. Here's Lockett looking toward his right, but now we'll go top of the arc to Arns, who's a good three-point shooter percentage-wise. Loses control of the basketball and it's out of bounds.
Kind of interesting on that last possession with Centralia that South Puget has a height advantage, yet Centralia was able to block out and get the rebounds. And both teams struggling a little bit here, and that might be one of those things where they're just not fundamentally sound as far as blocking people out as far as South Puget Sound goes.
First check-in for the Clippers. Paris Daniel will be checking in. Freshman out of Wilson High School. Long three-point shot off the back of the iron. And he'll get a second opportunity. Goes in, misses the shot. It's hauled in by Voss. Outlet to Lockett. Lockett will stop inside the arc and then pull back. Dribble with the left hand and now over to the right. Moving toward the right. Looking back up top, he sees Voss. Voss a touch pass over to Farstad. Farstad looking down low. Instead, crossover dribble into the lane. He'll pull up, go back up to Lockett. 10 on the shot clock, make it 8, 7, and they're gonna work the shot clock, working for the shot. Here's Lockett with the attempt, and it's off the side of the iron. That intended pass goes out of bounds. It looked like it was off the foot.
And Lockett was the one that jumped up and blocked it.
Looks like it got hit in the eye as well. And it went off of Lockett's foot.
Yeah, hopefully he's not wearing a contact.
So he's playing with one eye.
Get a patch over it and he'll be Captain Lockett.
Yeah. Here's Smith. He'll give it off to, looks like Deshaun Hayes into the game. That ball out of bounds. South Puget Sound having a tough time shooting.
Yeah, they are. They're struggling with that, definitely. That's probably where they're at the bottom of the league there.
So 8-6, Centralia with the lead, 14:42 to go in the half. Almost a steal there by the Clippers. Three-point shot taken by Dim. It's no good. Here's the Clippers. They're on the run. Body-to-body contact by Smith. The shot is up, and it's 8-8. 14:23 to go in the game. So we got a good one today, Wade.
Yeah, both teams very athletic. It's just that they're a little bit young, and that's, it can cause some problems.
South Puget Sound, I think their freshman-sophomore ratio is kind of about normal. Behind the back pass, and I think South Puget Sound would have had a chance had the player controlled it.
Yeah.
There's a turnover on South Puget Sound.
That should have went from an easy
with the
basket.
basketball. Big boy running hard with the ball. I don't stand in there and take that charge, by the way.
It's like a train coming.
That's right. Farstad with the bucket, 10-8. Centralia with the 2-point advantage, 13:47 in the half. And Centralia up by 2. South Puget Sound looking to tie the game up. Misses the shot. Here's Lockett with the basketball, top of the key. Doesn't have the numbers, he'll have to hold it until he does. Here's Arns with the basketball, loses control, and it rattles around, and Centralia regains control. Here's Dam with the basketball. Over to Lockett, he'll set up the offense. 10-8, Centralia by 2, 13-11. Here's Voss. Up top to Dam. Dam moves off to the left. cross-court pass. Here's Dam with a three-point shot off the side of the iron, and it's brought in by Farstad. Farstad baseline, reverse lay-in. That's good. Nice play, Wade. 12-8, Centralia.
Nice hustle by him, too, to stay with that rebound.
12:45 in the first half. South Puget Sound working on the perimeter. Smith gives it up top to Paris Daniel. No good on the three-point shot. Coming away with the rebound was Deshaun Hayes. Lost control, but it went right back to South Puget Sound. Here's Ewing, one of the starters. Over far point left side. Rolling baseline. Daniel misses the shot. Rebounded by Centralia. In transition, Voss with the mid-range jumper. Off the back of the backboard, off the iron, no good. And the rebound to SPSCC. Here's Daniel. He's sized up by his defender, so he'll give it up to Anya Turner. And you can tell by Turner's height why he gets so darn many rebounds. Down low to Turner, has trouble with the basketball, regathers control, and it looks like
he traveled on it, but they're going to call a pushing foul.
Yeah, a block on Arns. And we got a couple Centralia substitutes as Farstad and Chris Voss will check out, and Kyler Shula and TJ McKinney will come in.
South Puget Sound made a couple changes there too.
Clippers, a dump pass down low, and they're going to call a
charge on him, it looks like.
Yeah, offensive. You know, leading with the helmet, that kind of that kind of thing. So 12-8, Centralia with a 4-point lead, 11:25 to go in the half. Here's Lockett. It's a one-on-one competition. Lockett trying to show he's the man, and now he dishes it back up toward the top. McKinney off to Arns, three-point shot, and he makes it. And I did mention Arns is a good three-point shooter percentage-wise. He leads the Blazers. Hits one there, 15-8. So Centralia extends the lead, 15-8, up by 7, 10:58 to go in the first half.
You know, what I'm seeing so far is that both teams are very fast and very athletic. They tend to go one-on-one sometimes. So did you notice that? A player will get the ball and tend to try to show the other player what he's got. And, you know, with your at the beginning of the game, your coach wants you to get the full team involved and not so much go on the one-on-one stuff. So that might be a little frustrating for the South Puget Sound coach, maybe why he called timeout.
Well, Van Lockett, we saw he was, you know, trying to display his skills against the, I guess, the skills of the defender there. Going one-on-one, ended up going into the lane. A lot of times you call that a playmaker because what happened when he went in toward the basket, I guess it drew a second defender, and then he kicked it back outside. Lockett knows that he has some skills. He's averaging 15 points a game. He's had 11 of his 13 games that he's played in. He's been in double digits in scoring, so he certainly has the ability to make opportunities, and you know, I think he was trying to make an opportunity there.
Yeah, I think, you know, as we get later into the season, he knows where the other players are, and it's easier for you to do that, to make those plays when you drive in.
So South Puget Sound, Anye gives it away, and the basket made by Vanderhoff. 15-10, Centralia with the 5-point lead, 10:37 to go in the first half. And Centralia with the yellows. Boy, I do love these jerseys. Here's McKinney. Dumps it to the right. All the way in the corner, Arns. He's in three-point land. He guarded very closely by Hayes out of Pasadena, California.
It was kind of interesting he took out Lucky Langerberg early in the game. When he, you know, you mentioned he was getting 12 rebounds. You think they'd leave him
long three-point attempt. He makes it. Good shot that time by Lockett, making it 18-10 Centralia. Good pass that time by Vanderhoff. Centralia trying to stop this offensive rebound fest by South Puget Sound. Looks like the Clippers will go to the line.
Yeah, it looks like number 3 for Centralia, Lockett, got the foul on that one.
Clippers with a couple opportunities there on offense.
Yeah, number 44 doing a great job of rebounding, using that height. It's Turner.
Paris Daniel will shoot it and miss the first. Now there are 2 players, both freshmen out of Wilson. One Jordan Dam for Centralia. Paris Daniel also from Wilson for the Clippers. 18-11 after that free throw. Here's Arns, already has a 3-pointer under his belt. He'll give it to one of his mates, swing it over, now back up to the top and over to McKinney. McKinney will roll toward the top, give it to Shula. Shula misses the shot, and that one was hauled in initially, it looked like, by Jordan Dam, but who was it last touched by? Last touched by Dam, and out of bounds.
You know, as he was driving to the left there's 2 Centralia College players in the corner right there. That's not what you really want to see. Standing right next to each other.
Here's South Puget Sound toward the basket, block. They're going to call foul before that.
No, they're calling a shot, so he's going to get 2.
Okay, so that'll have Deshaun Hayes at the line. Free throw off the front of the iron, misses badly. 18-11. Centralia with the lead, 9:26 to go in this first half. Centralia women, if you tuned in earlier, beat the Clippers quite handedly. Second one misses as well. Arns with the rebound will give it to Lockett to bring up the court.
And again, good blocking out by Centralia.
We got a foul down low. Looks like Deshaun Hayes off-ball foul on the baseline.
And Lucky's coming back in now.
Yeah, as well as Mo Wagner. Mo Wagner, top rebounder.
One of the Wagners from Texas.
Mo, the top rebounder on the team. Inbounded to McKinney. McKinney in a trap. Will try roll back out. He gives it to Shula at the top. Passes it to Lockett. Now back up top to Shula. Over to McKinney, far point left side. Lockett on the wing. Gives it to Arns. Right elbow. Now to Shula, who will drive. Loses control of the basketball. Picked up by South Puget Sound. Here's Daniel. Daniel moves up toward the top. Guarded very closely by Shula. He'll dump it to Vanderhoff out of North Eugene, Oregon. Vanderhoff over to Ewing, and that pass batted away.
By a Wagner, one of the Wagners are brothers, and they're from Texas.
Miles, Mo and Miles.
Yep. Mozique, and then there's Miles.
So Voss back in the game for Centralia. Here's Ewing, he'll kick it outside to Vanderhoff, misses the shot, and that's hauled in by Lagerberg. So Lucky with the attempt, but before he does, he travels.
So far, you know, I'm really seeing Centralia blocking out really good on some of the rebounds here. I like what they're doing.
Here's McKinney with the basketball on the right wing. Crosses it over to Voss. Voss, the second leading scorer on the team. Shula looking for somebody open, finds McKinney, who had a lot of success scoring early in the season. Here's Shula, back to Voss, mid-range jumper on the baseline, off the side of the iron, no good. Clippers with the basketball, up to Lucky, having trouble gathering a handle on the ball. We'll kick it back outside, now in toward Lucky, no call.
Boy, it looks like he just ran
Physical
over a
play.
Centralia
Oh, yeah.
player there. Coach Moore not real happy with that.
Letting him play. Here's McKinney to Voss. Voss attempts to go down low to Shula, misses the pass. And here's South Puget Sound in transition. And Deshaun Hayes believes he can fly. Held the ball up there quite a while, ended up with a foul.
And it didn't go in, but if it would have, we would have been going, wow. So, but he did get fouled in that process, and we'll go to the line.
You used to be able to jump in the days of yore, sort of like that.
Something like that. I had a pole in my hand when I did it, though.
And it looks like Ahmad Burse. Ahmad Burse comes in, and Scotty Ewing, one of the starters for South Puget Sound, checks out. Here's Deshaun Hayes with the free throw. Off. Grabbed by Mo. 18-13, Centralia with a 5-point lead. 7:15 to go in the first half. Here's Lockett. He's fronted by Daniel. Bounce pass to McKinney, and he's fouled from behind. That was Vanderhoff committing the infraction. That's the third team foul for the Clippers. So Centralia will take it, a non-shooting foul underneath the basket. Lockett will throw it in for the Blazers. And it looks like Jamie Smith will check in for South Puget Sound. And Daniel will check out. Here's Lockett. Lockett bounce pass to Mo in the right corner. Up top to McKinney. One dribble and back to Lockett on the right wing. Lockett fronted by Ahmad Burse, who's got plenty of energy just into this game. And Burse will commit the infraction. Foul by Burse. His first personal foul. That's the fourth for the Clippers. 6:57 in the first half. Centralia still up by 5. And that time it looked like Shula trying to split the defense, and Deshaun Hayes commits his second personal foul. So in a matter of about 20 seconds, all of a sudden South Puget Sound has 3 team fouls, Wade.
And they don't really have a lot of substitutes to bring into the game.
No,
so
they only have 9. Nice play by Shula, misses the shot, gets his own rebound. That one is missed, and South Puget Sound comes away with the basketball. Looks like Ahmad Burse having a few problems. He's able to finally gain control, and now he'll set up the offense. Here's Vanderhoff, bounce pass. Down low on the baseline, Jamie Smith working hard, misses the shot, rebounded by Centralia. Here's Lockett, Centralia in transition. Lockett will give it off to McKinney, who will go in toward the baseline, kick it back outside. This one's taken by Shula, misses the shot, rebounded by the Clippers. Golden opportunity for the team in gold.
Second three-point shot by Shula that was missed.
Deshaun Hayes, that one's blocked by Mo. Big block
nice
by
block.
the big man. And Centralia, with 6 minutes to go in the half, up by 5, will slow down the offense. Here's Lockett, tries to go to McKinney on the baseline, misses the shot. And now number 24, Deshaun Hayes, thought he was going to try and dunk it by the time he was, when he was at the free throw line. He slowed up and he did what he needed to do that time. He put it off the glass, and now South Puget Sound within 3.
A little bit of a finger roll there.
Here's Lockett. We'll give it off down low on the baseline to Voss. Voss in triple coverage, back to Lockett. There's got to be somebody open. Shula, touch pass to Mo, back to Voss, has trouble with the basketball. Up ahead, all alone, Jamie Smith. He'll go in for the half dunk.
Half dunk, yeah, that's right.
And 18-17, Centralia's lead has been dwindled. It's only a 1-point lead, 5:17 to go in the first half. Wade, Centralia just being careless with the basketball right now.
Yeah, Coach Moore probably called timeout here to talk to him about that. They were, I was going to compliment them on making that extra pass, but sometimes they take too many extra passes and try to get a little fancy there, and that's where we've seen some of those turnovers there. And South Puget Sound applying a real swarming defense. They just get 2 or 3 guys to the ball right away as soon as a Centralia player has it. One thing I think Centralia is doing, I mentioned this earlier, is on those rebounds, you'll notice that the Centralia players, even though they're at a height disadvantage, they're blocking out really well, and they're getting a lot of rebounds. So it'll be interesting to see the halftime statistics on the rebounds that they get.
And we remind you that you're watching Centralia and South Puget Sound on Channel 3. Centralia up 18-17, 5:17 to go in the first half, and we want to send a thank you to our producer engineer, Bill Sholkoff, and
Oh,
director
yeah.
Dave LeClaire, and also our fabulous camera people, Jake King and Wade Joloff, not to be confused with Wade Fisher.
Right, although in class, you know, someone says Wade, we both go, what?
What, huh?
I said, for now on, just call me Mr. Fisher. That's what it should be anyways.
Mr. Fisher, exactly. What is this, high school, middle school, or something?
I ask them to, they don't, though.
I only go by Dr. Fisher, that's it. Yes. This is your how many years of teaching?
Counting my other school, too, 24, 25.
Centralia trying to extend this 1-point advantage before half. Try and get it back up to where it was. It was about a 5-6 point lead at one point. Here's McKinney with the basketball at the top. He'll give it off to Dam. Dam over to Voss. One dribble. Now back up top to Dam's touch pass to McKinney. Back toward the top. Here's Dam. Had an opening, didn't take it. Gives it to Lockett. Fakes the pass down low. Now to Mo. Over to McKinney. He'll shoot the 3-point shot off the side of the iron. Voss almost had the rebound. Instead, Lockett came away with it. So you had, on that one play, you had two players. Neither one of them came up with the basketball. Both of them looked like they'd have the rebound, one of the two.
And Lockett got it up over Lucky Lagerberg.
That's right. Well, here's Lucky. Loses control of the entry pass. Mo with the basketball, fancy behind the back dribble. Gives it to Voss, and now up top to Dam. Centralia up by 3, 4:15 in the half. Here's McKinney. Gives it to Dam on the left elbow. One dribble, back outside to McKinney. Entry pass to Mo. Touch pass to Dam, who was coming from the top. Misses the shot, gets his own rebound, puts it off the glass and in. So a little resiliency down low by Jordan Dam. Dam, the 6'3" freshman out of Wilson.
Coaches like that, out of players showing that athleticism, but sticking with the play.
Talk about a guy who's broad-shouldered. Dam has, he's the big load down low.
It's like a tight end almost.
Here's Lucky with his pass up top deflected, but still gathered in by Deshaun Hayes. Back to Lucky. Lucky will drive on the baseline. Spots Tyler Vanderhoff. The three-pointer misses. And here's Centralia in transition, 3-on-2. Here's Lockett, will give it up top to Dam, will shoot the wide open three-point shot, and he makes it. Oh, mercy, what a shot that time by Dam, 25-17. The 1-point advantage has gone back to Centralia. Now it's an 8-point contest all of a sudden.
Nice little sequence by Lockett there too. He came running down, stopped. It looked like he was going to drive to the basket, got an outlet pass, and we get the 3 points. So good decision making on his point.
Well, Jason Moyer called the timeout, and all of a sudden that 1-point lead turns into a little nice 7-0 run for Centralia. So timeout at the right time.
Right, you got to be aware of when to take those timeouts. So Jason Moore doing a good job at that. You know, he's been coaching for a few years now, been an assistant coach too, and learned from a lot of different people. So
and a Centralia graduate.
Yeah, exactly. He was here for a little while. And
it's interesting, you know, to be a graduate, to be in the system, to come back and coach, and have half your players from Alaska.
Yeah, it's funny. So I think, you know, initially we had a coach who knew somebody up in Alaska, and they were able to get a couple of players down. I think there's just kind of a pipeline. Yeah.
Because then you tell your buddy the next year, hey, you got to come here. I enjoyed myself. Who then brings 2 more people, and that's the way it works.
Yeah, we had a really good player last year from Alaska too, but he transferred on to a 4-year school after his first year. So I was really excited to see him come back this year, but then he decided not to come back.
Well, 3:13 to go in the half. This one down low to Jamie Smith, misses the shot, rebound, puts it back up, and in 25-17. 25-19, I beg your pardon, with the basket. Here's Lockett. Ewing giving him some space, now comes in a little bit closer. Lockett wanting the one-on-one possibility here. That one, a pass to Arns, didn't look like he was expecting that. 14 to shoot it for Centralia. Here's Lockett, moves to the left, has an open lane, loses control of the basketball. He had a nice look toward the basket that time.
Just lost control with 8 seconds on that shot clock.
And it looks like Gunnar Farstead will come in, and TJ McKinney comes out. 2:38 to go in the half, 25-19. Centralia will bring it in from underneath their own basket. Pass up top to Arns. Arns tries to roll off of Ahmad Burse. And it looked like both players were using a little body that time. Foul on Burse. That's his second personal foul, sixth team foul for the Clippers.
We get a new 35 too, so we're down like 8 seconds on that shot clock.
There you go, that's a bonus. And it looks like Burst will come out, and Marcus Braxton from Spanaway Lake, the 6'2 freshman, will come in. Here's Dam with the basketball, dribbling to the right behind the back dribble. Will pass off to Lockett. He's fronted very closely by Smith. Goes in toward the lane, will kick it back outside to Arns. Again has problems bringing in that pass. Now they'll give it to Lockett to set it up one more time. 3-point shot taken by Centralia and missed. I will say that Gunnar Farstad had a good look, and South Puget Sound responds. That's Scotty Ewing, puts it off the glass and in. 25-21, now it's South Puget Sound. That was a giveaway almost by the Clippers. That time I thought Lockett maybe just getting a little bit flippant with the basketball. So Kyler Shula will check in, and Lockett will come out. South Puget Sound encounters Shula's defense. I thought Shula did a pretty good job last time he was in defensively, shutdown defense. And he forces a travel that time out of Ewing.
Yeah, very good defensive player there. Missed a couple threes.
You know, it's like a receiver, you know, hearing footsteps. That point guard with the basketball knew that defender was there the whole time. There's not much you can do, and I think he stopped paying attention a little bit too much to the dribble. Here's Dam on the left wing, crossover dribble. Almost loses control of the basketball. Reed gathers it in. Here's Shula. Will roll off a screen. Is picked up by Deshaun Hayes. Off the Dam, fakes the shot, gets it back, and that pass goes off the hands of Farstad and back to South Puget Sound. And there's an easy lay-in missed, but the rebound by Jamie Smith puts it back in. 25-23, so now it's South Puget Sound on a roll.
We saw Smith do that a couple sequences ago. Got a rebound and put it back up.
Here's Shula to Dam. Rolls into the key, misses the shot. Two big bodies go down. And they're calling a charge on that.
Wow, kind of surprising.
Well, I'll tell you, I thought, you know, the South Puget Sound player did a good job holding his feet. Can't ask for much more than that. Man, two big.
You just want to clear yourself.
What a physics instructor would say was two objects of that mass, you know, when they meet.
You see a shadow coming towards you, just move out of the way.
That's the big bang right there. That ball out of bounds, last touch by Shula. So with 56 seconds to go in the first half, Centralia up by 2. On the far side, South Puget Sound will throw it in to Anye Turner, who, for all the rebounds he gets every single game, really doesn't have that many in this one. Here's Ewing with the basketball on the right side.
He's probably a second half man.
Gives it off to Smith, now down low. Smith will get the basketball back from the baseline. He'll take the mid-range jumper and make it. 32 seconds to go. Shot clock and game clock look like they're almost the same. So they could wait for the last shot if they wanted. Shula, bounce pass to Dam. He'll bring it back toward the top. Gives it off to Shula, running in from the other side. 14 seconds to go. Game clock, shot clock. Crossover dribble. He'll go in toward the lane, give it to Arns. Mid-range baseline jumper, no good. And that's rebounded by South Puget Sound. 4 seconds to go on the clock, 2-1. Last shot of the half. That time, that shot by Deshaun Hayes, in and out, almost was able to take the lead with that shot.
Yeah, they had a chance to take that lead. They worked their way back from a little bit of a deficit there. And, you know, basketball is a game of runs, and you got to withstand the other team's runs when they get on a little bit of a run. And luckily the half ended because South Puget Sound was on a bit of a run. You know, on that big collision back there, I noticed after that, Dam was kind of holding his elbow. Did you know? We're going to be a little bit tender.
Well, so Centralia had a 1-point lead. Centralia called a timeout, went on a 7-0 run, found themselves up by 8, and then South Puget Sound came right back. And we find ourselves tied here at halftime, 25-all. So, you know, when you're right, it is a game of runs, and at this point, it sounds like baseball saying it's a game of runs.
Right.
But at this point, the two teams find themselves at halftime tied at 25.
Yeah,
and
In basketball, you see a lot of momentum changes, more so than you do in other sports. But when one team has momentum, you got to be able to fight back. And calling that timeout was really good for Centralia when Coach Moore did that, because Centralia was, or South Puget Sound was on a little bit of a run, had a little bit of momentum, and so a very smart timeout.
Yeah, definitely a good basketball game for the fans that did elect to come tonight, with a tie ball game going into half. And you know, when you look over the two teams, what the teams do well, what they don't do well, how they stack up according to the other teams in the conference. You know, one of the things that you can point out is both teams in league and overall figure toward the bottom, you know, relative to the other teams in the West Division in you know, most categories. Centralia and South Puget Sound both, you know, not really high-scoring teams. Both score in the 60s. Centralia usually scores about 61 points a game. South Puget Sound 68 points a game. 25 tonight for both clubs. So offensively, neither one of them is producing the way they might produce normally. You do see a lot of teams, though, second half, you start to score a few more points. Defense, you get tired, and defensively.
We saw that on the women's game tonight, too.
Oh, yeah, the women's, what was it, 25-13, something like that at half.
And it ended up 61-41 at the end of that game.
Well, first half stats come in, and South Puget Sound, one of the areas that they're really struggling in, three-point shots, 0 for 8 from beyond the arc. So they haven't been shy to take the shots. They just haven't hit any. Centralia, 3 of 10 from behind the arc. You know, that's you know, maybe a little bit less than average, but they do have at least the three-point shots to their credit, where South Puget Sound, it doesn't have anything to show for that. Rebounds, South Puget Sound is winning the rebound contest 24-17. We thought Anya was going to play more of a factor coming into Anya Turner. Turner in the first half, well, I guess he had 8 quiet boards.
Yeah. I wouldn't have guessed that.
5 of those were defensive boards, and 3 of those offensive. Now, I did see Jamie Smith. It says 3 offensive boards for Jamie Smith. Now, I noticed that because he has 12 points in the first half, and some of those were his own second half, second chance opportunities, exactly. And so 8 rebounds for Anya Turner. He's very tall. He's very lean, too, so I think he can squeeze his way into some spaces that, you know, most people wouldn't be able to get into. But as far as field goal percentage, you know, both teams, you know, respectable, I would say. At least within, you know, something. Centralia, 40% total field goal percentage in the first half. And I guess I read that wrong. I thought it was 43% for South Puget Sound. It looks like their field goal percentage was 34%. I'm sure a lot plays in with that three-point percentage being so low for South Puget Sound. Second half, second chance points. Centralia and South Puget Sound relative, 9 second chance points for South Puget Sound, 8 for Centralia. So neither one of those teams pulling away, you know, because of that category. Sometimes when you see a team pulling away, you look at that kind of category. Turnovers, as far as points off turnovers, they're pretty close. Centralia just a little bit ahead of South Puget Sound. So, you know, when you look down that kind of thing, they're all kind of the same there. Well, that's probably why the score is where it's at, 25 all.
Well, you know, I was going to say, from doing the game a couple weeks ago, watching the team from then and tonight, what I've noticed a little bit different is, and of course, you know, they've worked with each other a little bit more, but the first time I saw them, they were quick with the passes and shots. They didn't run the shot clock, and they were very patient. And now they're maybe a little too patient. They're running it down a little bit too much, and they're forcing some passes toward the end as the shot clock's running down. We saw a couple turnovers toward the end of the first half there when I think they felt a little rushed. And so, you know, that extra pass is always good, but you really want to keep track of the time on the clock. And you hear Jason Moore, the coach, you know, yelling, you know, get the shot off here soon. But as they work, you know, but going back to the beginning of the season, they were, I think those passes, quick passes, they weren't trusting each other, and they were depending on themselves to score a lot, and that's why they wouldn't pass it. I think they're a little more patient today because they're starting to learn each other. Now, both teams look really athletic. They're both gifted teams. They both have some really good players, and sometimes it's just meshing. I mean, how do you account for them? You know, you watch them here, and they're doing a good job. And when they play against a team like Clark or a team like Lower Columbia, Tacoma, they have maybe more talented players, I'm going to guess, more athletic players. But their schemes may be a little bit different too. But as you watch them here, you go, wow, these guys are pretty talented.
I think one of the differences when you look at a team like Clark is, you know, I mean, sometimes it goes beyond just basketball itself. I mean, Clark is an area that whole area is growing.
Sure.
It's growing by leaps and bounds. Economically, they I guess are a little more stimulated than this area right now. They've seen some successes in the last couple of years. They're starting to grow, you know, that way too. So I think they have kind of an easier time right now recruiting players.
Sure.
There are more people living in those areas, and I definitely think that helps. You just have more people that you can recruit from, and that's one of the reasons I think that Clark is having success right now. I mean, historically, Clark hasn't always had necessarily more success than any other team in this West Division. I mean, you always have Lower Columbia doing well. Tacoma always seems to do well in the same, you know, division, and you know, Clark is always you know, a presence, but Clark this year is really starting to put it together, and I think a lot of that has to do with just the location and that base of people that they have to recruit from.
Now if you're the South Puget Sound coach right now at halftime, what are you telling your team?
Well, I try and get some second half recruits. They've only got 9 players. They got 5 points off the bench. Their bench players are being less hesitant than Centralia's. Centralia has 0 points off the bench. Some players like McKinney, you think that you'd see somebody like that shoot more. McKinney, his first 5 games of the season, now it was non-conference, but he had double digits each game, and 2 of those games had 20 points.
Wow.
So he was shooting the lights out of the ball early on in the season. He only took 1 shot after he came in off the bench. So I don't see that some of those players are really role players. So if I'm South Puget Sound's coach and I'm tied at 25, I know that I'm already out rebounding Centralia, and I know I already have an advantage off the bench. What I'm going to try and do, to the best of my ability is keep those aspects right where they're at. I'm going to try and make sure that those players that are coming off the bench stay maybe a little unsure or hesitant to shoot, because some of the players Centralia has off the bench, like McKinney, are actually pretty good. They're pretty decent players. So if you can keep them quiet, then you know all you have to deal with, all you have to really worry about are those 5 players that started against you. And you know, the other thing that I would do is see, you know, you really have to make sure with having only 9 players that you keep everybody fresh. Because as we mentioned, second half, sometimes you see more scoring, your defense gets tired. Your defense is going to get more tired when you only have 9 players. Yeah,
so keep them fresh and watch their fouls. That's the other thing they're going to have to do.
And one of the players, Marcus Braxton, for example, he only saw 7.5 minutes of play. You know, I'm not saying that the coach should give him a bunch more time, you know, based on skill level or anything like that. But you know, you definitely have to keep some players in as long as you can, but to a point without letting them get tired. Because if you let some of your superstars, your Anya Turners, your Scotty Ewings, stay out there for too long, they get tired, you don't have depth, then Centralia is able to score on them a little easier.
Right. Now what about if you're Coach Moore of Centralia? What are you telling your team?
Well, I definitely tell them to keep up the consistency. You know, a few times we saw where Centralia would get a little excited. They would turn over the basketball, and it seemed like there were a lot of loose balls that Centralia lost.
Right.
A lot of times it was just on a pass or something where the pass was, you know, it was to a player, it bounced, maybe even regained control, but you lost your opportunity because that player who gets the ball can either shoot it or they can pass it away real quick. And that double catch or whatever you want to call it, after batting it a few times, you just lost your opportunity. So now you have an extra defender that's had time to come over and shift over, and they're on you now.
Well, you know, it seems like there's a few times where the Centralia player wasn't expecting the ball, and the turnover resulted of that. And there was a couple times.
One possession we saw Arns twice, actually.
Yeah. A couple possessions over here on the left side over here. I noticed that 2 Centralia players were in the corner when the pass was made, and that means that there's 2 defenders there, possibly 3, and you shouldn't have your team bunched up. I'm sure that Coach Moore was probably talking to them about that. You know, spread yourself out, space yourself out a little bit more.
Well, I suppose Arns, you know, you should always expect or hope that a pass comes to you, I guess. But Lockett takes the ball, and he, as we mentioned, is a playmaker. He likes to take it. He likes to go to the hole. And so both of those times, one time it was like, it looked like he was going to drive toward the hole. All of a sudden, boom, there it is, the pass. And he wasn't expecting it. And so all of a sudden he has the ball, and he's got to do something. And after batting around, now he has to pass it to someone because he's got 2 guys on him. So he passes it back to Lockett, who, boom, passes it back. And I just think that was one of those things that was kind of a broken play in that case. And Centralia had like 2 or 3 of those. And
yeah, and that comes, to remedy that. Sometimes
freshmen,
you have to
they
play
are
with each
freshmen.
other. Yeah, you have to play with each other for a while, and you understand what the other player is going to do in certain situations.
Yeah,
So
well, and like I mentioned, South Puget Sound, I think their sophomore and freshman ratio is about average. If you start going down their list, I'll let you just count up the freshmen and sophomore while I talk about Centralia. Centralia on their roster, they have 13 people on the official roster. How many usually would you see? 4 sophomores?
4 sophomores, yeah.
Okay, and that's even a little bit light. But usually, I mean, you might see a mix. You might see maybe give or take a few here or there. Centralia, of the 13 that they have on their roster, one is a sophomore. That's it.
Right.
So these are freshmen. That means, that means that you're going to have a lot of guys with a lot of experience going into next year. That's why Centralia, if they come into this game, and they're a long shot for the playoffs, but they still are a shot. So whether they get in or they don't, if they can at least play strong basketball down the stretch and pick up a few wins that in the first half they weren't able to pick up because of lack of experience, but now they have that experience, so maybe they win a few of those games, they get a little confidence under the belt. Next year, you're talking about a bunch of sophomores, and those sophomores have experience, then they have a good shot of actually being a pretty decent team.
Right. One of the things they risk, though, is that if a player is really good, that they're going to leave, and because like they had this guy, his last name was Ridgway last year, who was a fantastic player, and he only played here 1 year. If he would have came back, I think the team would be dynamite this year. But some major college picked him up. I think it might have been Las Vegas that he went to.
I look at it realistically right now with the players right here. I think if any of them are going to leave, it's because they don't like Centralia.
Sure.
I don't see superstars. I see a lot of good players with good talent, Division I talent. I don't know.
Yeah. So doing it that way, then the following year you're gonna have a lot of freshmen, of course, and so maybe you're good every 2 years. So that's how you have to work it.
Well, right now you have only freshmen to choose from, so you might be even starting a freshman that on a really good team might not be starting. So you might be able to go in the offseason and find a freshman, somebody coming out of high school that will be a starter and will take over for a sophomore, somebody who's a freshman this year. So next year's starters, you might see a mix of freshmen and sophomores. You might see a little more success that way.
I think at every season what the coaches do is they evaluate the players, and some players they ask not to come back, and some players choose not to come back. That's where a turnover happens sometimes too.
Before the game, just talking with South Puget Sound and assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches for South Puget Sound, I said, geez, 9 players, you guys don't have a lot to choose from. And Carl Williams, the assistant coach, said, yeah, you always start at this level. He says it always seems like you start with a few more and then you lose them throughout the season. He goes, not a lot, but he goes, man, this attrition hurts in this level of college basketball.
Yeah. Because
if you start with 11 players and 2 get hurt, you don't go out and just get another player at this level.
Right.
So you've lost that player to injury, and 9 players is a pretty lonely bench.
It sure is. Well, at least everybody will get a little bit of playing time when it gets down to 9 players. So it is a challenge as a coach, though, definitely. And, it's a challenge, that sophomore-freshman ratio is a really challenge, and different coaches see different philosophies with that.
I will say, though, second half, Centralia did turn the ball over 10 times. We mentioned that maybe a little sloppy play. So if I'm Jason Moyer, the one thing I'm probably going to say is second half, let's be smart with the basketball. Let's not try and force something. Please be aggressive. Please try and make opportunities, but don't force opportunities. So if the shot's not there, don't take the shot. If you can make a shot happen and you can still use good technique, then by all means try and do that, but don't force it, and don't try and force a pass. And I think if they do that, if they're a little smarter with the basketball, then I don't see any reason why, because of depth, because of talent, they shouldn't be able to come away with that.
Yeah, I would think so too, especially with the depth. If they can keep substituting, keep their legs fresh, and wear down South Puget Sound for the end, your legs start to give out on you, your shots go a little bit awire, could make a big difference here.
Well, Centralia going back out on the floor. Lockett, Arns, Farstad, Voss, and Dam for the Blazers. And for the Clippers, it's Ewing, Smith, Braxton, Turner, and it does not look like Lagerberg is going out for the second half. And we'll have to see, looks to me like in second half, Deshaun Hayes is going to be the player out there. So here's Arns with the basketball, gives it off to the left to Lockett. He'll push it down low to Dam, misses the shot, rebounded by Turner. Here's South Puget Sound in transition. Smith with the ball, gives it. This shot that time by South Puget Sound. Here's Voss with the ball, up top to Lockett. Over to Farstad, who has it batted away and has himself batted down. Foul on the play.
So you definitely want to come away with something there, either a foul in shots or the basket, and so luckily he did get fouled there.
So Farstad at the line.
You see good sportsmanship after that play, the South Puget Sound player helping him up.
One of the players from Alaska, from Ketchikan, 6'1", the only sophomore on the team, makes the free throw. Gives Centralia a 1-point lead just into the second half. Here's South Puget Sound. Ewing with the ball, gives it to Smith. Smith moving toward the left elbow, gives it to Hayes. Hayes looks cross court, now instead gives it to Ewing at the top. Ewing, I think, the shortest player out of both teams. Up top to Smith. Smith goes toward the basket, misses the shot, rebounded by Turner. There's the big rebound by the big man, puts it off the glass and in. So South Puget Sound with the 1-point lead, and that's their first lead in quite a while. 18:50 to go in the game. Farstad down low to Dam, misses the shot. No, he doesn't.
Takes a lucky roll there for him.
Yes, he does. 18:36, Centralia by 1. Kicked ball.
You know, teams coming out of the halftime have to be real careful, because sometimes you see teams come out and one team getting on a roll right away and getting a lot of momentum.
Inbounded to Ewing. One dribble, gives it to Hayes at the top for the Clippers. He moves toward the right, will stop, three-point shot, and he hits it. Had an open look, took it. 30-28, South Puget Sound by 2, 18-19 in the game. Here's Farstad. Looks for Voss, instead goes to Arns. Off to Lockett, far point left side. Gives it up to Voss, he's fronted very closely by Hayes. To Lockett over in the right corner. He's guarded by 2, gives it to Arns, up top to Dam, over to Voss. Voss decides to try and go for one. I thought he was a little haphazard in picking up the basketball behind him, and coming in, Anye Turner gets the ball all the way to the basket.
Yeah, he was a little bit lazy on that play there. I think Coach might substitute him out.
On that one, loose ball, it just maybe a little haphazard reaching behind him to get that. So South Puget Sound by 4. Here's Arns with three-point shot. He's made one tonight, misses that one, and a pretty rebound by Braxton. Here's Smith. Goes into the lane, dumps it to Turner. Turner off the glass and in. So now Turner getting some boards and some baskets. I beg your pardon, was that Braxton with the basket? Here's Farstad. Seems like every drive down, this is where we see the play start to develop. A little scoop shot that time by Hayes, and South Puget Sound on a run.
Well, Coach might be thinking about calling a timeout here pretty soon.
And this time we see Lockett running on point. He rolls to the left into the baseline. He'll skip it outside to Dam. Touch pass to Farstad. Drives, misses the shot off the back of the iron. Grabbed by Voss up top to Dam. He's guarded by Hayes. Gives it to Lockett to set up the offense. 16:33 to go in the game. Centralia down by 8 now. Here's Farstad at the baseline. He's going to be called for, that's going to be a foul.
You know what, we were looking at the shooting percentage from the first half, and I think what's going to be a telltale sign at the end of the game is the rebound percentage of both teams, or actually the numbers of rebounds, because with them not shooting as well, rebounds are really going to play a decisive role in this game.
So Voss comes out, TJ McKinney comes in. Here's a three-point shot taken by Dam, and he makes it from the left side. 36 for South Puget Sound. Here's a three-point shot taken by the Clippers. Rebound, easy rebound by the Clippers, gets batted away. Now a loose ball picked up by Lockett of Centralia. Now they put Centralia's last three on the board. Blocked McKinney's shot, but right back to Centralia and Arns. Arns gives it off to Farstad on the far side. So it's 36-31. Blazers down by 5, 15:49
Shot clock
to go. 7 to shoot for Centralia. 5 on the shot clock. Here's Farstad off to Lockett, who will take the three-point shot, and he buries it. 2 threes in a row for Centralia. 36-34. Centralia up, or within 2. 15:30 to go in the game. Here's a three-point shot, a deep three-point shot taken by South Puget Sound. That was almost Jimmer Fredette territory right there.
Yeah, it looked like it.
39-34. Here's McKinney. He's fronted very closely by Smith. He'll roll off of a screen, take a baseline shot, a short one, missed the shot, goes for his own rebound. He's going to be called for a foul. Reaching around, Turner. (39-34). Centralia stormed back, came back to within 2, and South Puget Sound now again with a 5-point lead. So substitution for the Clippers.
Centralia on a mini run there. South Puget Sound able to stop that.
Here's Ewing, another long three-point shot off the back of the iron, back of the backboard, top of the backboard, and it's pulled in by Smith, who's fouled and makes the basket.
So Centralia needs to be a little more patient here because this game can get out of hand really quickly.
Well, I think after the one three-pointer, I think Ewing came back saying, you think that one was long? What do you see this one? And you know that works for highlight reel when you make the shot. Free throw is made, 42-34. Clippers up by 8, so the 8-point advantage one more time. This matches their high, 14:50 to go in the game. Here's Lockett. Cross-court pass to McKinney. He'll drive toward the lane, stop at the baseline. He's fouled from behind. That's going to be Paris Daniel, who recently came into the game. And now Lucky coming back into the game.
Daniel showing good sportsmanship. I like to see the opposite player pick up the player that he's just fouled.
So into the game for Centralia, Mo Wagner back in.
And Lockett hit about a 8-foot shot there.
8-footer, 42-36 the score. Centralia down to their friendly rival South Puget Sound. 14:40 to go in this game. And Wade, right now, we talked about these runs in the first half. Most of those were toward the end of the first half, and now we're seeing that again. Seemed like the first, 3/4 of the first half, there wasn't a whole lot of runs. It was kind of back and forth, and then we saw some of those 7-0 runs. Someone else counters with an 8-1 run, and we're seeing it again. South Puget Sound's really come out a lot stronger than Centralia here in the second half. Centralia, they're relying on these runs just to not get blown out.
Right, and you know what, the thing as a coach, you you only have so many timeouts. You got to pick and choose when you're going to call timeout. So do you let it go 8 points, 10 points? You know, what do you do there?
So here's Smith with the basketball, rolls off of a Lucky screen. They'll kick it around to the left. Cross-court pass, Smith will dribble from the right elbow, take a shot and drain that. That was a nice looking shot that time. He elevated nicely.
A lot of elevation on that shot.
He was squared to the basket the whole time. 44-36, the Clippers with the lead. Here's Lockett, gives to McKinney. Rolls off of a screen, and that's going to be foul that time on Paris Daniel. A push on the screen.
And Daniel having some words with the ref there about that one.
Almost thought about one of those Jimmer threes that we talked about. Only I think Jimmer's like way down here, you know, like 10 feet out further.
About 10 feet, yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous. Here's another screen. Gives it to Arns. Kick out to McKinney. He'll take the three-point shot. And He'll miss it. It rolled around, rattled around. And a jump ball. I think if the two would have kept fighting, Lucky would have came away with that based on strength and size.
You know, Wes Arms had that rebound in there. And he had a pass, and he was in the middle of the key, and I think he just heard footsteps and thought about the height around him and decided not to shoot.
Well, possession arrow was towards South Puget Sound, so the jump ball went toward them. Timeout is taken. We got a timeout on the deck, 44-36, full timeout. Centralia down by 8 one more time. They've been here before. They came back. They were within 2. They lost the lead again, 13-30. They need to get that momentum like they previously did and hold to that. Yeah,
and I like what Coach Moore did. He substituted some players in because they seemed like they were losing some of that momentum on their side, so he brought Wagner in. He did a really good job in the first half, being a presence in the middle, blocking a couple shots, and just getting a couple really good rebounds, timely rebounds.
So we'll see on this full timeout what the game plan is coming back out. Last time Centralia took a timeout, it boded very well for them toward the end of the first half when they were down and needed to storm right back. So we'll see if whatever game plan they put in place this time will work.
Yeah, well, we have a couple seconds here. Our next game we'll be televising will be next Saturday. Green River will be in the house in the Wooden Palace here, and we'll be bringing both games to you then. So be sure to join us for those games.
You know, the official name of this is what, Health and Wellness Center. It's very academia.
Yes.
One day I sure hope that they name the floor, that they name the whole arena something, Wade Fisher Court, something like that. Here's a dump pass down low to Turner, and lane violation. So it'll go back to Centralia.
It's good to see a couple of those, know that the refs are actually paying attention to that.
I think the officiating tonight has been pretty darn decent. Here's Dam with the ball. At the top, gives it to Lockett. Looks to make a move on Lucky. He does. Stops, shoots over the top, misses the shot off the back of the iron. Looked like it was maybe handled by Mo for a second, but yeah. South Puget Sound came away with the basket.
Didn't get the roll that he wanted.
Going very quickly toward the hoop. Smith, he's fouled.
I think Smith was actually bailed out by a foul because he was a little out of control as he went up.
He definitely went in very quickly. And I thought Lockett had a decent shot. He needed to get that up, arc it a little bit up there, but he had the quickness advantage on Lucky.
Just took a weird bounce there for him. Didn't go in. So yeah, got up over Lucky, so.
46-36, South Puget Sound up by 10, and they're starting to move away with it. 12 minutes and 50 seconds to go in the game. Bounce pass to Arns. Fakes a pass to McKinney, gives it to Lockett. It's a 2, foot on the line, misses the shot badly. This one way up ahead to Ewing. Ewing will go toward the lane. That one's blocked by Dam, and as he tries to save it from going out of bounds, he steps
hustle.
on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good hustle, great hustle.
So what we just saw down there, Lockett came down and shot the ball pretty quickly and no one in a position to rebound. That happened a lot during the beginning of the season. And you know, they may be reverting back to, as they panic a little bit, to one-on-one play there.
The officials talking over what's on the board.
There we go.
Inbounded to Lucky. Lucky over to Turner. Turner will try and make a move on Mo, kick it back outside to Lucky. Will take a couple dribbles, kick it to Smith, who buries the three-pointer. 49-36, South Puget Sound with a 13-point lead now, Wade.
Definitely on a run here.
With 12:15 to go in the game. And at this point, this is a very important stretch of basketball game for Centralia. Arns just misses a heartbreaker. This one up to Lucky. And that one's going to be a foul on Dam. And I say it's going to be an important time in the basketball game because you're either going to get back within striking distance or you're going to let it get out of reach.
Right. On that play, Dam fell down and hit his elbow again, so we got to keep our eye on that. But yeah, you're right. You see a run like this, very critical time. Maybe not a bad time to call another timeout.
So
that one. Lagerberg hits the free throw, only a 53% free throw shooter. Statistically, he should be missing his second one then.
He might get lucky.
Might get lucky.
Nope.
Statistically, he does. Turner, another rebound, gives it to Ewing. Ewing goes toward the lane, kicks it back outside to Lucky. No luck. Turner with another rebound. South Puget Sound, another offensive opportunity.
Yep, we'll look at those rebounds again at the end of the game and see what the difference was there. But
Smith with the ball, moves toward the right, gives it to Daniel. Lucky gets a nice pass, a lot of slapping, a lot of skin. This one's going to be batted back into the backcourt. Daniel with the ball. Number 1, guarded by number 1, McKinney. That ball batted out of bounds, last touch by Lockett.
You know, the first half, Centralia did a better job blocking out on those rebounds. They don't seem to be doing that as well in the second half.
Well, they were out-rebounded, Centralia was in the first half, but not by a great difference.
Right.
I think we're going to see a whole different story in the second half. That was a fancy pass that time to Turner, who misses the shot. Almost, I thought, got his own rebound.
So late foul call there, but yeah, it was kind of a no-look pass. I think the ref waited there to call that foul because the ball was stripped.
50-36. Centralia trailing by 14. 11:10 to go in the game. Here's Lockett. Gives it to Arns. Fronted very closely by Smith. He'll give it to McKinney. Will drive toward the basket, stop, push it outside, right corner to Lockett, who will get hit, falls, misses the shot, pulled in by Mo, and has the ball stripped. Seems like I've seen a couple times that Mo's come away with the basket, come away with a rebound, and had it stripped out of his hands.
Yeah, you know, I don't. Well, you think that maybe he'll have to just move it, but you think the refs would call something on those. He's just got to move his hands once he's got the rebound. Nice three-point shot there.
Now we got two big bodies for Centralia. Mo and Miles Wagner are both in. Here's a three-point shot taken, and that one is drained.
There's the answer from South.
Another one by Smith, and it's 53-39. The Clippers with the big lead, 10:30 to go in the game. Here's Arns, gives it to Miles. The entry pass wasn't a great one, and it was stolen by South Puget Sound. Ewing goes for the lay-in. It's batted by McKinney, and McKinney, as he tries to go the opposite direction, is called for a travel. We got a timeout on the deck.
So probably a good call from Jason Moore.
53-39. South Puget Sound with the big lead, 10:18 to go in the game. And boy, in this critical time we're talking about, Wade, it doesn't look like Centralia is doing much to get back into it.
Yeah, so I think the timeout here by Jason Moore is good, just to kind of get his team reset again and just say, hey, just be a little more patient. Maybe talk about the blocking out on some of the rebounds there. So, but you know, you mentioned about Wagner when he lost that. He had a rebound and he came down with it. I think he was just standing. Maybe he was surprised he got the rebound because he did go up over a couple of their players.
Which surprises me. The guy gets 7 rebounds a game. You wouldn't think he'd be surprised.
I got the ball, and then someone stole it from him. So yeah, I think he's just going to have to move once he gets the ball. Make sure that he moves. You see a lot of players grab the ball and they'll swing around a little bit just so that someone else can't get their hands on the ball. He may have to start using a technique like that.
Well, right now, Centralia, you know, you still have basically a quarter left of game. You don't throw it away yet.
No.
You scratch and claw and try and get back in it. We're talking about a 14-point deficit. That's not insurmountable. Yeah. And the next 2 or 3 minutes will really decide whether that's something that can be done.
Yeah. When you get down to 5 minutes, you start thinking possessions at that point.
When you get down to 5 minutes, if it's still this kind of score, if South Puget Sound is built upon their lead, that's when you maybe start to give some other guys some playing time.
Or start putting up threes.
So here's Vanderhoff. They'll throw it in for the Clippers. Up top to Smith, touch pass over to Daniel. Gives it back to Vanderhoff, and he'll set up the offense. Daniel. Vanderhoff. Down low they go to Turner, and Turner with the Twin Towers.
And you just can't let them have an easy layup. You want them to know that if you're going to be inside like this, you're going to put a ball up, you're going to get, it's going to be challenged.
Sandwiched by the duo Wagner.
Be a Wagner sandwich.
Wagner sandwich. You've heard of the Reuben. Now here's the Wagner. I'm not going to lie, that was kind of lame. So here's Turner with the second free throw attempt. And he makes that one. South Puget Sound a big lead, 10 minutes and 1 second to go. Lockett with a three-point shot, and he hits it from the top of the arc.
That's one way of stopping a run, getting that three off.
54-42, South Puget Sound with the lead, 9:51 to go in the game. Here's Vanderhoff to Turner. Turner, a couple steps in, loses control of the basketball. Last touched by Centralia. The Clippers will bring it in from underneath the hoop. Here's a jumper from the baseline, right side, missed. Gathered in by Centralia. Lockett, full head of steam into the lane, kicks it outside to Arns. Arns fakes the pass, now gives it to Lockett, and another three-point shot. He hits this one. Don't count him out yet. 54-45. That's 2 3 balls in a row. Here's Vanderhoff, guarded by McKinney. Cross-court pass, grabbed by Lockett as he was going out of bounds, had to try and flip the ball, save it, throws it back out of bounds.
Had to save it and then save himself.
Save it and save himself.
That ball was coming toward his face pretty quickly there.
So a 9-point lead for South Puget Sound. 9:09 in this contest. Turner will throw it in on the far side. And Scotty Ewing checking back into the game. Harris Daniel takes a seat. He'll toss it in to Vanderhoff. Vanderhoff we didn't see a lot of in the first half at all, and he's been in for quite a bit now. Here's Vanderhoff. Almost like a no-look, grabbed by one of the Wagners. Up ahead to Lockett. He's all alone. The layup off the glass and in. 54-47.
It wasn't no look, but he should have looked.
This is where Centralia needs to keep momentum and play smart.
Yep.
Here's Ewing. He has it back to Vanderhoff. Back up to Ewing. Three-point shot taken. And that hurts for Centralia. You almost saw that happening right there as he had the open look. Here's Lockett. Centralia down by 10. He'll drive in toward the lane. Crafty pass. Off to Wagner. Misses the shot.
Nice
Boy,
spot.
he had the open look on that one.
Yeah, it was a nice spot to bounce it off
Here's
the glass.
Smith. Gives it off to Ewing. Ewing would have had an open shot again. What do we have, an off-ball foul?
Yeah, it looks like it, yep.
Yeah, we had an offensive. That was the 7th team foul. And that's one of those things you can use to your advantage right now if you can get South Puget Sound into that, especially that double bonus. Here's Arns with the basketball. He'll drive toward the lane, stop, put up the shot, misses it. And out of bounds, last touch by Anye Turner.
Last two possessions, they were right there. Just short shots, and he missed him. You can't afford to do that.
What's funny is both of the Wagners, you look at their season statistics, they both do well from the floor, both over 50%. Lockett misses the shot. Now somebody like Lockett has a kind of a low percentage, and huge dunk that time by Deshaun Hayes, who's going to write to home to mom about that one. Flexing the muscles.
He wants to see that in slow-mo.
His season's over now. That's all he wanted to do. He can go home. McKinney fronted very closely by Smith. He'll give it to Lockett on the right side. Dump pass down low, last touch by Turner. Whoa, I guess it was last touch by Wagner.
Can't
of course, you had the better angle.
Yeah, I could tell it was Wagner. But, yeah, you can't give the ball away. This is a crucial time, like you said, and making some mistakes where they shouldn't be.
Clippers, Anye outside to Ewing. Ewing with the underhand scoop shot, makes it. And right back to South Puget Sound having a 61-47 lead. A three-point shot taken by Lockett. Misses the shot, but Arns is gonna have the rebound. Gives it to Lockett up top again. He'll drive toward the lane. Little pump, nice pump that time. And he makes it 61-49.
A lot of hang time there on that shot.
6:40 in the game. Vanderhoff still out there for the Clippers. Bounce pass to Ewing. Fakes the pass down low, back up top to Vanderhoff, gives it to Smith. Smith off to Turner, loses control of the ball. It's batted around, grabbed by Lockett of the Blazers. Almost has it stolen by Deshaun Hayes. He of the huge dunk.
Yes. Lockett really trying to be a spark here at this point in the game.
Here's McKinney, will spot for the three-point shot, top of the key, badly misses. Grabbed by Wagner. Wagner has the ball partially blocked, but there was a lot of hand on that one. Good call by the officials on that one. Turner says, what, me? No way. Yes, actually you.
So how was he on his free throw percentage?
Well,
with Wagner's,
that's a good, so yeah, Miles Wagner, free throw percentage 58%.
Got that first one.
But it's better than Mo's at 52%.
Yeah.
So I guess you can count your blessing on that one. But both of them they both have a decent percentage from the floor, not so good from the free throw line.
My understanding is one of them's only played basketball for a year.
Second one is good? Really?
Yeah.
Was that just until you gain your Centralia residency, or? 61.
1 year of high school basketball is what he played.
Oh, he's only played for a year.
Yeah.
I thought you said he was only going to play for a year.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, he's only played for 1 year.
That's a little odd. Here's Arns, three-point shot. Oh, almost makes it. Wagner with the ball. And Wagner puts it up. And
they call a travel on him.
I think, was it a travel or a foul?
They called a travel. Well, maybe. Did they call a foul on him? I saw the ref signal travel, but.
I will say that on a play like that, you got to go right back up. He kind of
moved around a little bit, yeah.
Moved around a little bit, and I was watching top half of the body. I think the officials watched the whole thing.
Right.
And would have seen that.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to go back straight, get back up and try to get the foul at least.
And of his size,
yes,
he wouldn't have a problem doing that. 61-51, Centralia down by 10. 5:39 to go in the game, and as the game starts getting down to this period now, you need almost a couple of those three bombs.
Right. You start, the coaches start really thinking about how many possessions are we going to get normally under this circumstance, because South Puget Sound's going to bring it down and kind of run some time off, and then take a good percentage shot. So we won't see them coming down taking. So we shouldn't see South Puget Sound coming down taking threes right away.
So it'll be Clipper basketball as we head to the tail end of this game. Here's Smith to Lucky, gives it off to Turner. Pass over in the corner. Now Ewing with the ball, fronted by McKinney. Will give it to Smith. Back to Ewing, cross court. Down low to Turner.
And again, there's 13 seconds on the shot clock, so they're just working that shot clock down, trying to get a nice percentage shot. Not that they're going to run it down every time, but if there's nothing inside, if they have a quick inside shot, I'm sure they'll take that.
That was on Miles Wagner.
Just taking their time. Get a new 35.
That was dangerously close to 5 seconds. Here's Ewing with the basketball for the Clippers. He'll dribble a couple times to his left, gives it off. Now down low. Nice pass that time to Lucky, who dumps it down to Anye Turner, who goes up and is fouled.
By Wagner, I think, again.
By Wagner. 44 again, so Miles Wagner.
It just kind of shows his inexperience. He's only been playing for his second year now, organized at least, at this level, high school organized level. So
first free throw missed.
3 quick fouls on him.
Well, and Centralia definitely had the advantage for team fouls for a while, and now not so much. That one's off the back of the iron, and it's grabbed by Arns. Arns looking toward his left. He hits his first read. Now down low to McKinney, who'll go up and misses the shot.
We've seen a lot of those tonight.
We have a lot of those. As here's Turner. Had that ball gone to Lucky, it would have been an easy basket.
So good defensive play. Yeah, we've seen a lot of those shots not go Centralia's way, and that's what's really kind of killed them tonight.
Here's Deshaun Hayes, gives it to Ewing. To Turner, back up top to Hayes. McKinney giving him some space. Hayes will go in toward the lane, kicks it outside to Ewing, will spot for the three-point shot. No good, rattles around, grabbed by Lucky, and Smith with the basketball. Guarded by McKinney, a couple dribbles to Lucky. He'll dribble toward the right, gives it to Ewing, who will come in toward the lane, kicks it to, intended at least to Hayes, but it's batted around. Centralia with the ball, Lockett with the three-point shot, and he hits it again from that same spot. I'd say that's Lockett's spot right there on the wing.
Yep. It was a nice touch from that, kind of like the old Freddie Brown three-point shot.
61-54, 4 minutes to go in the game. Here's Ewing, gives it to Lucky, rolls around toward the top to Smith. Gives it to Ewing again. Head fake, moves toward the lane, will push it back outside to Hayes, the three-point shot, rattles in. And Hayes very demonstrative. Whenever Hayes does something, he lets everybody know how good he thinks he is. Here's McKinney, up top to Lockett. Lucky didn't have that pass stolen.
Can't take too much time off the clock.
Here's Dam, catch and release. Misses the shot. I think when Dam, that catch and release, I think he didn't even have his eye on the basket when he first started the shot. It wasn't an open look.
No. So South Puget Sound will call timeout.
That's what Moore I heard him just say, that's not the best shot.
That's good observation on your part, Chris. But you know what Centralia, they have to come
Thanks,
down.
Wade.
They've got to take some. They've got to take some quick threes here. They can't wait around too much in that. They wasted probably about 20, 30 seconds.
Well, they're not winning the battle down
20
low.
seconds. Yeah. So just take those three-point shots. Now South Puget Sound coming down, and they're taking a lot of time off the clock. So you know you got to just come down and try to hit a couple threes. So, I mean that's what's going to bail you out right now. Actually, you know they're 10 points down, 3-14. You know you're talking about what, maybe 4 or 5 possessions. We have a little ball handler out on the court right now.
Well, if you are talking about the top 3-point percentage shooters for Centralia, I mean they have not a whole lot. Most of the players that are sitting in the mid-20s, mid to low 20s free throw or 3-point shooters. Wes Arns at 37% is the top coming into today. We've seen him hit one of those.
And Lockett's at about 2 or 3 now.
Yeah, and anybody else with a substantial number, Kyler Shula, 25%, TJ McKinney, 26%. He's taken a lot of shots, 18 of 68. So, and Lockett, 21%. So coming into tonight, I mean, he's almost equal tonight what he did the rest of the season. Here's Hayes, gives it to Smith, guarded by McKinney. He'll drive in toward the basket, underhand shot off the glass and in. Nice shot that time by Smith. Here's Lockett, he's trying to push it ahead for Centralia. Down low to McKinney. That's a shot, that's another one of those turnovers. Centralia has to do those correctly. They have to be precise. Ewing, little crossover, gives it to Smith. He'll going toward the basket, gives it to Anye. Turner misses the shot, and a foul. And it's again on Miles Wagner.
It'll be his 4th. So quiet crowd now.
Not like the rowdy, crazy crowd we had earlier. And the shot
There's a hush over the crowd right now.
A lull has gone over the crowd.
So
67-54. You know what I didn't notice tonight? Usually, whatever happened to the baseball team coming with the newspapers?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That used to happen. That used to be a tradition.
They used to paint their stomachs and things like that.
You know, I think that's what I'm not seeing is the student body here.
Sometimes, you know, I was mentioning during the women's game, sometimes we have a pep band here during halftime. You know, we'd be getting a kazoo band out there sometime. Come out and play. A little marching band.
A marching band and some guy with a didgeridoo.
Probably get the theater department media studies department to come out and do that. Although they should be doing camera work.
Yeah, I don't see the baseball team here. You know, not a large student body. See a lot of, seems like community members. Here's Lockett from the free throw line. He'll give it off to Shula. He'll take the mid-range jumper. It falls, and that's one of those shots that wasn't falling for Centralia.
I thought it was going to jump out of there.
So here's Ewing, who says, okay, I can waste a little time. Bounce pass to Smith. Guarded very closely by Shula again. He's tight defense, and Shula, they're going to call him for a foul off ball. He's trying to plead his case, but he's going to be unsuccessful in that. He defends closely, but he definitely had the forearm up against. So with 19 fouls, next foul, South Puget Sound will have 2. This is that one. Shula way up ahead to Lockett. 3-point shot from the wing. He's done well from there. 67-59. Centralia still in it. We got another timeout. 2 minutes to go. Wade at this point. I mean, that was what the game plan was, I guess, that we thought would be successful.
Right. So they need to do that again, just get the ball. You know that South Puget Sound's going to try to run that time down. So Centralia's going to come down, and Lockett seems to be the go-to guy right now.
Yeah, down right now by 8. 2 minutes is not insurmountable, but you got to be careful with the basketball.
Exactly. Hey, we want to thank Channel 3 for letting us the City of Centralia broadcast the game tonight. I'm just looking across the way, and Ryan Trotter's over there with KELA doing the game on radio. So.
Yeah, the next game for Centralia will be for television will be the following Saturday.
Yep.
And if you just looking at the schedule itself, Centralia's next game on Wednesday will be at Lower Columbia, and that's the hated rival, the Red Devils. That will be down in their arena. But then right back here Saturday night against Green River, that will be televised again on Channel 3. So we invite you to come right back this way. And you know, with this next game on Wednesday at Lower Columbia, that's the start of the second half of league play.
Right. Yeah, make sure our viewers write that down on their calendar to join us next Saturday for the Green River.
Starting with the women.
The Gators, yep.
At 5 o'clock. Men will be here at 7. Pass in toward, looks like full court here for Centralia. Full court press. And now they're in fouling mode. Shula reaches out and fouls, and that's a double bonus here. 10th team foul. TJ McKinney will come over and get some instructions from Moyer.
Yeah, we just can't let South Puget Sound run off that clock. Especially, they've been out rebounding Centralia. They'll run that clock down, take a shot, and maybe get the rebound.
So that's Smith, I beg your pardon, Smith at the free throw line, only a 47% free throw shooter. I mean, both of us could do better than that. Misses that.
So Lockett coming back down.
Yeah, here's Lockett.
For his spot.
Gives it to Dam. Back to Lockett. Coach telling you don't need a 3. And that one's blocked, and McKinney goes down hard. Here's Smith, out of control, gives it off to Lucky. Lucky will go in for the basket, misses the shot, gets his own rebound. He's fouled on the way back up, and that was on Arns, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was too.
Yep. 4 for the hold.
So what do you think of the strategy coming down that time, going for that 2?
Well, I think you're trying to show you're not panicking. Dylan Fulmer.
I'd be panicking.
Come in. First we've seen Fulmer.
My preference would be to come down and start just shoot the 3s.
Lucky, a 53% shooter from the line.
Got that second one in.
Fulmer, a decent 3-point shooter, though. I will say that. And I didn't rattle him off earlier because he barely ever gets in, but hits the 3 ball right there in the corner pocket.
And he's psyched up for that.
68-62. We got a timeout. 32nd. 1:25 to go in the game.
When he made that shot, he's like, that's what I'm talking about.
Well,
give me the ball more.
Fulmer, I mentioned that Arns was leading with 37%, and I skipped right past Fulmer.
Wow.
I said he hasn't been in the game. maybe won't get in the game. 36% shooter, though, 8 of 22 on the year. Make it 9 of 23.
So they're bringing their three-point specialist in.
Hey, I think with that three-pointer, he actually goes up percentage-wise, and now is the leading three-point shooter on the team.
Yeah, you know, they also have Lockett out there who's a good three-point shooter, and Dam, who's another good three-point shooter. So what they got to do is just foul again, see if they can maybe get down, but what, 6 points?
Well, as a team, South Puget Sound from the line only shooting 55%.
Yeah, so that's the thing to do.
That's awful.
And it's with 125, you don't have much choice.
South Puget Sound having a hard time getting the ball in, and Lockett's going to foul, and they're going to send Jamie Smith to the line, a 47% shooter coming into tonight. And that's what you hope for is he misses. The negative, of course, is they get 2 shots from the line. So in a possession game, they don't get the ball right back. (69-62). Here's the next one, and that's off the back of the iron, grabbed by Arns. I was going to think South Puget Sound almost had a chance to get a second opportunity there. Gives it off to Dan, 3-point shot, almost hit that. Off to Lockett on the far point, will go in toward the lane, puts it off the glass and in, 69-64, 107 to go inbound, and we got a timeout. That's the last timeout taken by South Puget Sound, so they've taken their full timeout. 69-64 again, Clippers by 5, 105 to go in the game. Wait, they almost just kind of made this run a little too late.
Yeah, that's, well, you know, I was saying that a couple possessions ago they went for a 2. I really thought they should have went for a 3, because, you know, they've been, we watched the whole game, and some of those close-up shots just, I don't know, there's like a fish line on that hoop or something, because it's just taking a bad bounce.
We'll investigate that after.
So yeah, we'll go up there and check that out. But you know what? So I would live and die by the 3 at this point, because the shorter shots just don't seem to be falling.
And you're talking about a team that's out rebounding you anyway. So if you miss the shot, the chance of getting that second opportunity hasn't been there. So I think that's a fair point at this stage. Yeah, 69-64.
Because when the game's over, you're going to at least say we give us the best shot, and we just missed.
Well, it's a possession game, and so 105 left. I mean, even if you get 2. If you go for 2 and get 2, and then you foul them, even if they hit one of those shots, you've only gained 1 point on them. Well, you got to do that 5 times in a minute.
That's what happened. He got 2 free throws, they made them both, and we came down and just got back to where we were.
But then what happens if they make 2 of them, and you're up against it. So
yeah.
At this point, I'm okay with your theory of living and dying by the 3.
I think you have to do that. I think, did Shula just foul out or something? Or you try to get the steal, he was a little upset about it.
Yeah, almost.
Oh, they didn't even call it on him.
No, it was on Fulmer.
Yeah, that's his first.
So Ewing will shoot 2.
It's the first one. That's what you want to see.
First one. He's a 67% free throw shooter, and he's the top on their team.
Wrong guy to foul, but.
And he hits the 1 of 2. 103. Little fancy move by Lockett. But he's being fronted very closely by Smith to Shula, to Dam, big body, off the glass and in. 70-66, and we got a game. Oh, and Shula almost had that. And the officials letting him scrap a little bit. I like that.
So no shots here.
We got some rough play here. And they're going to call a hold. That one's going to be on Shula. 48 seconds to go. And they needed either to stop him or to foul. They needed something to happen, though.
Yeah, definitely.
4-point game. So that takes Vanderhoff to the line, only a 46% free throw shooter. 70-66. The Clippers by 4. Shot up, and it's in.
You know, he signed a deep sigh of relief on that one.
So it looks like we've got Daniel going out and coming back in with Turner. They need the boards. That would be a devastating board on here if Turner got it. And that time Vanderhoff hits both. 48 seconds. Here's Shula with the ball. Gives it to Fulmer. To Dam. Drives baseline. Kicks it outside to Lockett. Three-point shot taken from the right side. Back of the iron, missed. Grabbed by, looks like Shula misses badly the shot. And that, I think, was the game breaker right there.
Yeah, I think so.
Fulmer makes the foul. If Shula hits that, you're still at a 4-point game. But now at a 6-point game, and you have to concede potentially 2 points at the line.
I think when we look back at the stats again, we're going to look at those rebounds. That's going to be where the big difference came from. Oh, nice.
Well, with Smith at the line, he's been hitting 1 of 2 every time.
Does it again.
Oh, a 3-ball would look nice right now. Here's Shula pushing up ahead. Gives it off to Lockett. Moves toward the top. He'll spot for the 3-point shot. Rebounded by Turner, and that's why they put him back in there, was for the boards. Gives it up down low. They're trying to waste time, are the Clippers. And that time Lockett picks it, but steps on the line. And you see the man with the camera saying, no, not really. That wasn't, he wasn't out of bounds.
So tough
well,
sequence.
sir, do you have the photograph to prove it?
Yeah, let's see the replay on that one.
Here's Ewing. He's wasting time toward the left corner, in toward the baseline. Scoop shot, it's up and in, and this game is over. So the Clippers take this one by a score of 75-66. Centralia made it a game toward the very end of the game.
Yeah,
they
did.
To the end, and it got pretty exciting toward the end, Wade. But when all was said and done, all the Clippers needed was that last little push.
Yeah, you know what, I think we mentioned it earlier, but I think the rebounds really killed Centralia in the second half. You know, both teams have missed some shots, but South Puget Sound, I think we'll see that statistically. But yeah, the run started maybe a little bit too late there. You know, that they had a great opportunity, just missed a couple shots there. I thought maybe they should have started those 3-point shots a little bit earlier toward the end of that game.
Well, South Puget Sound actually, as a team, they normally get out-rebounded statistically by Centralia. Anye Turner gets the majority of those rebounds for the Clippers, and certainly he had his fair share tonight. But one thing tonight that we saw, I thought, was there were other players for South Puget Sound that were getting rebounds. They were getting second chance opportunities. I thought that really killed Centralia. We'll see when the turnovers come through, you know, what happened in terms of turnovers. Yeah,
and I thought that again in the first half, Centralia did a really good job of blocking out. They were more patient with their passes. And the second half, I didn't see as much as that. Maybe they just felt like maybe they panicked. I don't. It's hard to say, you know.
Well, so final score. They already pulled it down. They pulled down embarrassing.
Thank you.
75-66 the final, and we do have the fresh statistics. The first thing I wanted to go to was the rebounds.
Rebounds, yeah.
On 17 rebounds for Anye Turner.
Wow.
That's a beast game.
Yes.
47 total rebounds for the Clippers, 34 rebounds for the Blazers. So you get out rebounded that many times, and you look at the offensive rebounds, 24-15. So you know that meant second chance.
Right.
So let's see second chance points. 20. Well, this is surprising. Second chance points. South Puget Sound, Centralia. 15 for South Puget Sound. 23 for Centralia. That's actually opposite. So that was a non-factor, I guess.
Wow. What did Centralia have an offensive rebound? So
they had 15.
15. Okay.
So they converted some of those, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
Defensive though. Overall though, it was no question.
Yeah.
Centralia wasn't in that category. Let's see, turnovers. 18 turnovers for Centralia. I think that hurt them. 4 by Van Lockett. And then they spread the paint around though. A lot of players had either 3 or 2 turnovers themselves. Shooting percentage, Centralia was at 40 in the first and second half. So overall for the game, they shot about 40%. Three-point shooting went way up in the second half. 8 3-pointers made in the second half. So we knew that was going to be something that was going to keep them in the game. 44% in the second half. You know, statistically, they looked pretty good. If I'm going to see some differences, South Puget Sound 13 free throw points to Centralia's 3. Points off of turnovers. Centralia did rather well off of the turnovers. The rebounds, again, we mentioned, and we're just looking for disparities here in the statistics because, I mean, when you lose by 9 points, you figure there's something in here that's going to be. Overall, though, look at this. Jamie Smith, 29 points for South Puget Sound. He really led the way. Coming into the game, Smith was averaging a total of, he was averaging 8 points a game.
Wow.
With a high of 24. So he upped his high this year, and he certainly played beyond what he normally does. Ewing 13, Deshaun Hayes 12. For Centralia, the high was Van Lockett, 32 points for Lockett. He was the game high scorer. Of course, 6 3-pointers for Lockett. And Lockett coming into tonight, his previous high for the freshman was 20 points. That was his previous high, and he usually averages right around 15 to 20 points. His average coming in was 15 points.
You know, I think one of the difference was that he had to really kind of take the game over to put it in his own hands toward the end of the second half because, you know, as a point guard, he just felt, I mean, he just felt the need to do that, and I think that's I think during the regular, if it was another game, and the flow was just a normal thing where they didn't have to come back, I think he would have distributed a little bit more.
I see Jordan Dam was the only other player in double figures for Centralia with 12 points, 5 of 13 shooting. He had a couple 3-pointers, but on 7 attempts. One of those, of course, the one that he kind of heard an earful from the coach about. And total rebounds, again, nobody really stood out for Centralia. Nothing like 17 Anye type rebounds. So, you know, all in all, it looks like you're right, Van Lockett. He kind of had to take the reins. Nobody else really did. You didn't see a lot of the bench players coming up and playing a role. Some of them did go into the game. You didn't really see a lot of scoring. You didn't see some of them really even shooting the ball a lot. And Lockett kind of tried to make it happen there toward the end himself. Well, when all was said and done, 75 to 66, South Puget Sound wins. A reminder that next Saturday, it's not the next game for the Blazers, but it'll be the next game that we have on TV. It'll be right here, 5 o'clock for the women, 7 o'clock for the men on Channel 3, and it will be against, Pierce?
Green River.
Green River will be here on Saturday, and we'll be right back your way.
Yeah, so let's thank our everybody on our crew tonight.
Bill Shulkoff, of course, producer, engineer, as always, Dave LeClaire.
He was a director tonight. We had some camera people, Jake King on the balcony camera in the middle. We also had Wade Joloff, and actually Bill was up on camera for a while too.
Yeah. So for Wade Fisher, I'm Brandon Chapman. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you back here in 1 week.